What if I told you that almost everything you've been taught about money is wrong? Seriously, what if the real path to wealth is a secret that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time? Well, today we're diving in because we are about to unpack a completely different way to think about building a rich life.
Think about that. What if the real goal wasn't just about getting a bigger paycheck, but about making your money itself your hardest working employee? It's a pretty radical idea, right? And it is the foundation for everything we're about to cover. So where does this all come from? We're pulling back the curtain on the core principles from Robert Kiyosaki's absolute game-changing book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's all based on his story of having two very different father figures, and each one had a completely opposite philosophy on money, on success, and on life itself. And this, right here, is where it all begins. Not with complicated spreadsheets or stock charts, but with the simple lessons we learn as kids, the ones that end up shaping our entire financial future.
You see, right away, there's this fundamental clash of mindsets. On one side, you've got his poor dad, a highly educated man who believed in the traditional path. You know the one. Get good grades, find a safe job, get that steady paycheck. But on the other side, you have rich dad, who taught a totally different lesson. True wealth isn't about how much you earn, it's about financial intelligence, about learning the rules of the game so the system works for you.
And this leads us to one of the most controversial ideas in the entire book. It's this idea that most of us are chasing things we think will make us rich, but in reality, they're just digging us into a deeper and deeper hole.
Okay, just let that sink in for a moment. For generations, we've all been told that buying a home is the cornerstone of the American dream, that it's the biggest asset we'll ever own. But Rich Dad just flips that idea completely on its head. So why would he say that? Well, it all comes down to two very, very simple definitions. First up, a liability. A liability is anything that costs you money. It takes money out of your pocket. Think about it. Your mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, repairs. That family home is constantly pulling cash away from you month after month. It's a cash drain. Same goes for your car payment or that credit card debt.
Now, an asset is the complete opposite. This is where the magic happens. An asset is something you own that puts money into your pocket. It generates income for you. We're talking about a rental property that pays you every month or stocks that give you dividends. And honestly, this is the secret. The wealthy focus all their energy on acquiring assets, not liabilities.
You know, understanding this one little difference is the key to escaping what Rich Dad called the rat race. You know what I'm talking about. That endless cycle of working for a paycheck just to pay the bills and never really getting ahead. But how do you actually get out? Well, believe it or not, there's a map for that.
This map is called the cash flow quadrant, and it shows the 4 different ways people earn money in our economy. And where you fall on this thing, well, it determines whether you spend your life working for money or if you have money working for you.
So let's break it down. Over on the left side, we've got the E for employee and the S for self-employed. This is where Poor Dad lived, and it's where most of us start. As an employee, you trade your time for a paycheck. Simple. If you're self-employed, maybe a doctor or a freelancer, you still own a job. If you don't work, you don't get paid. Now the right side is where Rich Dad focused. B for business owner, someone who owns a system that makes money. And I for investor, where your money itself is literally making you more money.
The big goal, according to Rich Dad, is to make the move from the left side of this quadrant over to the right side. It's about shifting from active income, where you have to physically work for every single dollar, to passive income, where your assets and your systems are generating cash flow for you whether you're at work or on a beach somewhere.
So the big question is, how do we make that jump? How do you actually start building that engine that cranks out passive income and lets your money finally start working for you? Let's take a look at the strategy.
Rich Dad really zeroed in on acquiring assets in 3 main categories. First, real estate that generates rental income. Second, the stock market for things like dividends and long-term growth. And third, building or buying businesses that run on a system, making profits without you having to be there 24/7. These are the vehicles that drive you to financial freedom.
But, and this is a really important but, there's a critical warning label on all of this. Just blindly throwing money at stocks or real estate is not the answer. He hammered this point home. Investing without financial education is just gambling. You absolutely have to understand what you're doing.
Look, I know this can all sound like a huge mountain to climb, but the journey doesn't start with $1 million in the bank. Nope.
It starts with a simple shift in your mindset and taking that very first step.
So here's your action plan. Step 1. You have to invest in the most important asset you will ever have, your own financial knowledge. Read the books, take the courses, just learn the language of money. Then step 2 is to find your first potential asset. It doesn't have to be a skyscraper. The goal is to start small, learn from your wins and your mistakes, and just build that momentum.
And that brings us right back to the final, most important question. After everything we've just talked about, I want you to really ask yourself, is your money working for you, or are you still working for it? Are you on Poor Dad's path, trading your life away for a paycheck? Are you ready to start building Rich Dad's path, where your assets work around the clock to build the life you truly want? The choice, my friend, is yours, and it starts right now.